Return to observing. The body can be activated in all the different organs. But now, we want to bring all organs back to silence. External organs first, those are the easy ones. Internal organs second, those are the more difficult ones. As all the organs become silent, finally, eventually, the brain can become silent. When an organ is silent, it doesn't mean it's not doing its function. The opposite is true. When an organ is silent, it's doing its function better. There's no healthier brain than a quiet brain. A quiet brain is running the body the most efficiently. And then only after the brain learns how to become silent can the heart become silent. The silence of the heart is actually a form of sound. It's the most beautiful song. The heart can't sing until all the other organs are silent, because when they're silent, they're singing along with the heart. The heart can only sing when all the organs will sing along with it. When every organ is singing its own song, the heart is in disarray. The energies are not united. Every organ is demanding sustenance from the heart in order to accomplish its own desires. And when those desires come in conflict with the desires of another organ, the heart cannot find peace. The organ that's in the most conflict with all the other organs is the brain. The brain is also the place where all the organs get to argue about what's going to happen next. What should happen, what could happen, what might happen. Chemicals get created for all these different potentials. The body is always preparing for what it anticipates is about to come. Sometimes this has very little to do with what's actually about to come. And then the body is caught off guard. So silence has many forms. There is the voice, the words that are being formed in the mind. There are the images, the sensations, the vibrations. There is the tension in the muscles, tension in the nerves. Silence is every form of silence, because all of these are powered by the heart. Any tension in any nerve, and that tension is reducing the amount of energy available to the heart in order to make you better. The truth dwells in silence. The truth is silent. The truth cannot make any noise. Noise is just a form. A form is by nature temporary. The truth is permanent. However, we use form, we use vibration, we use the temporary in order to make our temporary parts aware of our permanent parts. And those words are permanent. Those words give us a piece of our own permanence. Without those words, we don't have access. Our permanence is not revealed. Humanity has forgotten the nature of our permanence. Where are we permanent and how are we permanent? What stays and what leaves? But whatever it might leave, whatever might change, the one perceiving is the same. That's what makes the being continuous. The one perceiving is permanent. And you are fortunate enough to be it. But we are not yet fortunate enough to feel like we are it. We don't feel like we are it because we don't believe we are it. And we feel based on what we believe, not based on what we are. When we say life doesn't feel right, it doesn't mean life wasn't designed right. It means what we believe about life doesn't feel good. And that tells us that a human being was not meant to believe that. Anything a human being was designed to believe will feel good when he believes. Just like nature provided his food to be attractive and to taste in a way that's appealing to the soul. The same way the ideas and the beliefs that we are meant to believe are meant to be sweet, are meant to enhance our well-being. However, just like on the physical plane, sometimes when we are off balance, we need bitter herbs or medicines to return to balance. So too in the world of speech, in the world of spirit. Sometimes when we hear the truth, it's not sweet, not because the truth is not sweet, but because we engage our nervous system with that information in a way that is not accurate. And so while we're digesting it, while we are coming to realize the real meaning of those words don't necessarily feel sweet within us. However, once we digest, if the belief is part of our design, then it should enhance our well-being. If after digesting the words they're still not complementary to our nature, then those words were not designed for us to be believed. And so to be able to see how we get affected by the things we come across on a daily basis, and by the things that we came across in the past that we're still carrying with us, we first have to come back to a place of balance within the organs, where they're all silently observing the effect of a thought, the effect of a concept on the organism as it's taking place. Every thought, every word, every idea causes a response within the human organism. This is our nature, this is how sensitive we are. And this response is unique for every combination of sounds that we can come up with. This response is the response of reality, assuming that we know what reality is. If not, this response is still a response of reality, but we have no way of knowing what reality is responding to and what it means. So unless our perception is somewhat aligned with the truth, our reactions are not reliable because the reactions are to inaccurate information. And so we want to bring back our perception to a place where our response is not personal. Our response is based on the design of the organism. Our response is coming directly from the organs, not as they have been programmed by the culture in the brain, but the way they've been designed by the one who designed all. And then every response is a response from the one who designed all. This is ultimately what led those who designated themselves to this discovery to realize their true nature. Because the true nature is what's driving everything that's going on inside of you. And that true nature is all we're trying to discover. That true nature, once we discover it, will already know everything that it needs to know, that is way beyond our wildest imagination, because the one inside you knows how to create you. And we have proof, because he did. And so the separation between the thoughts that we're having in the brain and the being that's alive inside you that's having that thought, that separation is what keeps us from our own power. That power is naturally ours. No one has the right to take it away. And yet it gets taken away when we get distracted and we get forced to think in specific formats that are unnatural. Until the one thinking no longer understands the one he's thinking for. The natural connection, the natural bond, the natural unity gets separated, and that results in a struggle. A struggle between one. A struggle that doesn't have sides, and yet the struggle continues. Because the organism that's thinking is thinking very differently than the way it was designed to think. The one that's feeling gets offended by the way of the thinking. When the one that's feeling is offended, he limits the life force. He reduces the aliveness, the intelligence, the desire, in order to match the hostile stance of the one that's thinking. And so to release that energy, to gain access to more life, is to align the thought process with the nature of the one that's thinking. All the words are only coming to mend this broken relationship between one and himself. Words that are trying to achieve any other purpose are mundane, are meaningless, because this tragedy is the mother of all tragedies. Nothing else matters until we fix this. As long as the one cannot be himself, then there is no life. We cannot call it life. It's a preparation for life. It's a potential. It's not yet a reality. So returning to the silence of the organs is returning to the place where the two parts that are struggling with each other meet. The one that's thinking is united with the one that's feeling. There's no struggle. And then from there, when there's no struggle, only from there can reality be seen. Can we get a glimpse of how fantastic, how enormous is this reality that we've received? And the only form of payment is the responsibility of being ourselves. And so all the structures that we have buried ourselves under, the beliefs, the ideas, the systems that are driving humanity, all of them were created from a perspective that doesn't align the one that's thinking with the reality that he resides in. Because even if we were told a truth, as long as our mind is not yet available to live that truth, the way that our mind is going to interpret that truth is still a lie. It's just a lie that's closer to the truth than the previous lie. And so everything that we've thought is still not that. And so anything that we're going to think, which is based on our previous thoughts, is also not that. The only place to get close to it is to come back to the silence. Within the silence, we're observing reality. The only reality we know how to observe. Every other reality we would like to observe, we're not qualified to observe. Because our thoughts are based on the past. And in the past, we didn't abide in unity. We lived in a reality that was fractured. To abide in unity is to abide in a reality where everything is cooperating with everything, where everyone is using their energy to make everything around them more efficient. This type of thinking, these beliefs, direct our organs, and they also direct our cells. Our behaviors become the behaviors of everything that we are. So return to that silence, unity, source, perception without definition, awareness that has no bounds. And allow your body to become familiar with that place. Allow every organ to remember the silence that's behind all activity. All the activity should be perceived as coming from the silence. The activity shouldn't be perceived within its own right. The activity doesn't exist within its own right. The activity only exists as a result, as a product of something very alive and very real that is always silent. Speech only comes forth from a place that is very alive very real, very intelligent, but extremely silent. Not visible with any of the senses, and yet more alive than all of the senses. In fact, the senses are only alive because of that life, and yet that life can be alive with or without the senses. And the senses are the external organs that report to us the conditions of our environment. The internal organs are reporting to us the condition of the spiritual environment, the emotional environment, the intellectual environment, the spiritual environment, the vibrational energy. The internal organs are perceiving. There are spiritual senses. So the sense organs that receive the external information, the five senses, they were designed in order to connect us to the environment on the physical level. And the spiritual senses, the internal organs, were designed to connect us to our environment on a spiritual level. The higher it is in the body, the more spiritual its function. And yet, the lower parts of the body are what give potential to all the spiritual functions. All the spiritual functions are only available within the physical structure. And so, in a sense, the lower the location of the organ, the more it's going to give us access to allow spiritual movement on this planet. So if we want access to this planet, then we're looking for lower organs. If we want access to the heavens, we go up to the higher organs. So bring all your organs, internal and external, back to unity, back to source. They all should remember who they are trying to serve. All of their functions are only there for one reason only. And you're that reason. Even the thought that's now thinking is trying to serve you. You is beyond the one that's listening, beyond the thoughts that are being formed. You, the one, the unity that's behind all forms. Return to that. Keep on returning to that, because it takes a long time for the body to find its way back to that place. Every time we attempt, we come a little bit closer. And the body is physical matter under space and time, which means the more time you're going to spend practicing, the more you're going to succeed. That's the nature of the body. Very different than the nature of the soul, where in one moment we can come to a realization that might take someone else many lifetimes. When it comes to the body is under space and time unless we have the power to make it different. So return within. Remember yourself.